Okay, you ready for some more? Yes. Okay, we have a couple. Who's couple number one? Do we know who couple number one is? Moving. Mark and Julie. Couple number one. And we have chairs for you. Are you nervous? A little bit. Don't be nervous. Are you feeling a little bit more seen as you hear some of our stories? Relating to a couple things here and there, I hope. Okay. So don't be nervous because you're just going to help us all continue to relate to one another, and you're perfectly normal.
So one of the things I noticed right away when I look at the strengths that the pair of you have is that you both share harmony, right? And so I'm fascinated by the idea that you both have the same word, but I imagine it expresses itself differently in your family or in the way that you guys operate with it. Could you tell us a little bit about that? I guess we need a microphone for you, huh?
Oh, here it comes. Will you give us the cliff note on harmony before they start?
So the short version for people who have the strength of harmony is that they are natural team builders. They have the ability to see what's needed in a space and can adjust and make accommodation for that need in order to be able to get to the outcome that's desired. I mean, it's a very loose explanation. There's so much more to it than you guys. You have that strength. So how does it kind of play itself out in the way that you operate, either at work or at home? Or
I think we talked about this a little earlier about harmony, and in our house, it kind of means avoiding drama. Or not avoiding drama, but like we don't enjoy drama. Huh. And so we like to work together to be able to get people together in the middle. So rather than being out here with my own little drama and out here with this other drama that you're experiencing, we like to find ways to bring those people kind of to the middle. Mm. And within our own house, like it's not a lot of fun when there's drama over here and drama over there.
Yeah.
So that's why we enjoy getting back towards the middle.
And I guess like work related, I'm pretty easygoing, so I can go on this side or this side, and I'll just probably go with the wind just to keep, the equilibrium going.
Do you ever find that harmony drives you to bring resolution because you want people to get along? Like maybe you're the peacemaker amongst friends or that kind of thing?
There are times when we struggle with that, trying to be the peacemaker, and we can be the peacemaker in our own way at times. Like when we're trying to figure out something with our kids, our kids play the same game that every other kid plays, where they're like, oh, talk to dad about that, or talk to mom about that. But I think once we get those interactions, we tend to do a pretty good job of bringing those back together. We're like, hey, Chloe told me this, and we need to work on this together. And I think we have a really good team approach in that way because of the way we want that harmony.
Mm. So if you look at their strengths, the way that they're up on the boards over there, if you look at Julie's, I mean, they both share harmony, but if you look at Julie's other strengths, responsibility, discipline, consistency, and maximizer, all those strengths lean toward getting stuff done and kind of in an executing kind of leadership mindset, right? So she's got this harmony, this relational kind of perspective, but it finds its expression in this very strategic thinking, kind of business-oriented space. Whereas Mark's strengths lend themselves so much more toward relationship. Communication, relator, ideation, all those kind of fall on the how do we get along side of the relationship. And so you can see how even though they share harmony, their expressions are going to be completely different within the family. And it could turn the way that they harmonize the family, it could turn it into an opportunity for discussion. Because one might have a perspective on how we're going to harmonize the family. Another could have a completely different way. Mark's going to come at it in a relational harmony. And I think Julie would come at it from an organizational kind of harmony, but they're both driven toward harmony. Am I making stuff up?
No, you're right on.
Okay. Julie, I'm fascinated by your maximizer and discipline and even the responsibility. It gives you so much perseverance to follow through with things and to complete things. Whereas I think Mark's perspective would be a little bit more accommodating, a little bit more relaxed about some of those things. How have you resolved that, especially in the way you see the kids play out? Like, if the kids are supposed to be doing something and you have that expectation, you're going to hold them to it. He might go, well, we could get to that later or something like that. And I could see you guys would have opportunity for discussion there. How have you worked that out?
Spreadsheets.
I love that answer.
Spreadsheets. That is not what happens in our marriage.
I think I've learned to not be so disappointed if I make a list, write down the deadline, and then let everyone know in plenty of time. And so then they have the time, and then I had to decide that they could get it done however they wanted to get it done, as long as they got it done by the deadline.
Yeah.
And I needed to give them enough time to get it done, really. That's helped me set the right expectation, and then so I don't get frustrated along the way.
Yeah, sure.
And just to add to that, like you talked about minimizing earlier, there are times when she might minimize that maximizer or responsibility trait and say, well, I don't always seek to drive everything to completion and excellence, but she does. Through her organization, if I didn't do something as organized as I could, she's the one that always picks up the slack on that, and I'd be lost without that. So sometimes she doesn't give herself the credit that she deserves by being that organized and having those plans in place.
I think the harmony is one of those strengths that can lead to people feeling a little misunderstood, because on the surface it looks like these two, very accommodating, very patient, make room for you. You can even put up with a little bit of like, that's not what we planned, but we can make it work, and it's all that. But they're different, but there's a place for each person who has harmony where I'm gonna adapt, I'm gonna change, I'm gonna make room for something until you get to this line. And once you've crossed that line, then the harmony for each of them comes out in a different way. It's like, all right, listen, people. The only way we're going to row the stupid boat from this side to that side is if everybody's oars is in the water at the same time. So we're going to go on my count because I'm tired of you banging oars and all the chaos. Here's how we're going to work. Ready? 1, 2. No, Johnny, knock it off. 1, 2. 1, 1, 2, 1. Here we go. Okay. And it gets edgy. Right? Your harmony, the sweet, accommodating whatever gets edgy, and you're like, holy smoke, who took over your world like that? I don't understand that. Well, it's because each person with harmony gets to a point where I'm gonna bring harmony nicely up to a point, and then I'm gonna bring harmony with a little bit more to be able to get it done. You see what I'm saying? So where's that line for you guys? Is it in about the same tolerance place, or is one person's line further down the road than another's?
That is a good question. They are not at the same spot, but I think the part of it, as she kind of gave the example of, I'll give you the space to make that decision to get to the goal in the way that you need to do that. She has the sense to know at times when to kind of back off and give that room, and that's really smart because both of our kids are probably more like me in the way that they want to get there when they get there, but they will get there because you gave them the goal about how to get there.
Mark, you have all the relational spidey senses, like your ability to intuit how the kids are feeling, what's going on, whether they're, okay, now, I know this never happens with you, but our kids would they wouldn't lie, they would front. A little something, you know. You have the ability to tell when that's happening at a really elevated level because of your relator. So tell me about how you guys work the connecting with the kids relational piece, since your strengths are higher than hers on a strengths finder perspective.
There are times when I do better at that than others. Like your 34th strength was empathy.
Uh-huh.
I'm probably somewhere in that neighborhood myself too. So there are many times when Julie is much better at that than I. So there could be times with the kids, particularly when they're feeling in a certain emotional way, where she does better at that. But I think our goal has always been to try to come together when we can, because there are times when we tend to go, like, make our own decision and then just go with it, and that gets us in trouble.
Huh.
But if we make a decision about what we think and then kind of come back together before we go with it,
Yeah.
we do better.
Yeah, and I think as our kids have gotten older and able to communicate their reasons for whatever it is they want to do. And
Okay,
yeah,
kids are 17 and 19. you're saying.
So as they've gotten older, it's helped. I think we have done a better job at getting them to really explain what it is from their perspective, what they're wanting. So then we can make a better decision.
Yeah.
So it's not negotiating, but more informed, like the seeking to understand before
Yeah.
being understood.
Yeah, that makes sense. Julie, your maximizer makes you such a natural polisher. Someone who's great at taking something from middle of the road to better than middle of the road. Like, excellence is a high value for you. Mark even mentioned it just a second ago. And so in the way that you would raise the kids or even work with him, talk a little bit about where you apply your polishing on these individuals and where you know to leave it alone.
Yeah. Answering these questions are hard for me because I'm just not good at taking positive input about myself. And so sometimes that surprised me because I don't even see that in myself.
He can tell on you. Sometimes
I'll
it is
tell on you.
easier.
So Julie doesn't talk about that a lot, but she has the ability to create those systems, and that's where she does the polishing. Is when she sees a process, she can think, okay, how do I get from here to here? But once I get there, is that the best result? And so she's created a lot of systems for her that help her manage that and get it to be good. In the work that she does for her business that she runs, she's continually done that year after year. And every time we go through another season of our business, it's getting better and better because of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, I see that, but you don't admit it, but you're doing it all the time.
I think that's a good example for all of us, that sometimes your strengths, your spouse can see in you better than you can. Sometimes our strengths are so much a part of the way we think and what we do that it's hard to acknowledge or know that we're even doing it. It's like such a natural part of you. And so sometimes if there is, you took the test, so as long as you're honest, it's reflecting your thoughts and feelings, it's reflecting you. So if you have a strength that shows up and you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure, you can have your spouse look at kind of the definition of it and see where your spouse sees those things in you. That's actually pretty common.
Yeah, yeah. Mark, this strength of relator that you have is a very interesting one, because on the surface it makes it look like, okay, well, it'd be easy to be in relationship with you, and it really is, because you do relationships at such a high level. It's very comfortable for you to do relationships, but the irony is you don't like having tons of relationships. You prefer having fewer but higher quality
Deeper.
relationships.
Yeah, I think that one is pretty accurate for me in that I get frustrated at times with superficial relationships, and I want to understand the qualities of people and understand like what they bring to the table, because I feel like I have valuable things that I want to bring to the table, but I need to know what other people's are as well.
Yeah.
And if I don't have an opportunity to experience that, then it's a little bit of a waste of my time. I mean, not to be cold and cruel,
Sure.
but like if I'm going to spend time with you, I want to find out what makes you tick, and to do that, I like to be able to get to know you and find out what those things are.
So how are you with small talk?
it's something I struggle with, and it's something I do for work all the time. Like I have to go call on customers and meet people that I don't know and try to talk about small talk and then go into business talk, and I struggle with that.
Yeah.
But so that's work for me, like a physical effort, like a exercise, and I get better at it. But it's still like at the end of the day, I'm worn out.
Yeah.
Or like we have to say, I'm tired of peopling.
Yeah.
I get it.
I have Relator as well in my top 5, and what I have found over time is put me in a room, a party, maybe atmosphere, as a relator with a woo, where I'm trying to engage the woo in deep conversation. I will drive that woo crazy because all the woo can think about is saying hi to everyone in the room. And here I have them where I want to find my safe person at a party that I can talk deeper to, and I could stay there the whole night long if I have some deep, meaningful connections that I'm making. I don't need to talk to everybody at the party. That's overwhelming to me.
But sometimes you need that woo to like carry some of that load.
Oh,
for
yes.
Because when you need
I'm
to
just
meet
saying
those
I
people,
have to
like,
be
"Woo,
careful
Bring it on, man."
not to corner the woo. Like, I need to let the woo go and not be in a super deep conversation the whole time. I need to say hi to the woo and let them do their job in working the room.
So you're more of a whoa than a woo.
Yes, I'm a woe to the woo.
I think something about relators that you guys should know if you're going to be in the same kind of community with Mark is that people with relator, are there any others that are in here that know that you have it? Yeah, okay. Part of what's cool about having relator as one of your strengths is that you have this ability to intuit how the other person is feeling and to be able to understand if they're giving you authenticity or not. And the way you measure that is through eye-to-eye contact. And so if you're talking to somebody who has relator, the best thing you can do is look them in the eye. The worst thing you can do is get your phone out and start going, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm listening to you. No, we're going to do that. Yeah, that's right."
Ask him how he knows.
I still got a knot on the back of my head over here from how I figured that one out. And so really just face-to-face is important because it's how they measure the authenticity of the communication.
And I do know people that have relator and woo in their top 5. So they can go in deep conversations with you more one-on-one, but in a party atmosphere, they're going to want to say hi to everybody in the room.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions for us? Can we be referee for you?
Referee, that sounds loaded.
I don't have any,
You don't have any questions necessarily? Okay, good.
I was going to say that in our business, we run an event business, and so it's very lots and lots of work for like 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
And I love having him as the relator because he talks to the people and I can't do that when I have a list a mile long that I just have to go down my list and get everything done. But there's a lot of people waiting to have instruction from us, and I get sidetracked by that. But he's so good at filling in that role and handling all the people while I get stuff done. So I love that he makes up for places where I'm way down on the bottom of the list.
I will say with ideation, Mark, at the top there too, I've had a boss in my life that had ideation high, which is amazing because it just basically means you have an endless supply of ideas. Constantly have fresh ideas coming, and you're not necessarily married to all of them, but you just want to be able to express them, and some of them may stick and some of them may not. It can be frustrating to people around you if they think they're supposed to execute all of the ideas, because it's not possible to do that because you always have ideas. So I don't know, especially if you're in your business together, how that plays out.
Yeah, I just pick the top one and try to make it happen.
And she does make it happen.
Yeah, that's the discipline piece. Of all of the strengths that occur, discipline occurs the least frequently in people. And so what's interesting about discipline is it basically means that you can, you see an elephant, you know how to eat the elephant, and you make a plan to do that. And so on day 541, you know you've got to bite 541. And it's not just that they have the plan to do that, they have the willpower to follow all the way through to the last bite. That's the ability to be disciplined, to know how to break this gargantuan thing down into all of its component pieces and then follow the plan to get you all the way to the end. So that you operate in events is a really fantastic fit for the natural skill set that you have.
It's awesome.
Yeah. All right, guys.
See,
Thank you
that
so
wasn't
much.
painful.
Where are our next victims? Chris and Laura?
You want me to take that? Okay, that wasn't bad. You're not scared now, are you?
Aha!
You're woo. We love woos.
That's what we need.
We need woos. You make the world a happy place. I like your shirt. You went with the theme today. I'll give this for you to share. I'm glad you're here.
So, Laura, you and Chris, thanks for spending some time with us, and thanks for offering to be picked apart in public by, not picked apart, but just, I mean, this is stuff that's connected to you guys, obviously. What stands out to me right away as I look at your strengths is, Laura, you're such an outgoing, people-oriented person, and happy to share your emotions and show people how you think and feel. And Chris has this very high sense of responsibility and this so kind of, how did you guys meet? Like, what was that? Like, tell me about that story. It's a classic case of opposites attract, like so obvious right there.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking last night. We've been married 30 years, and we got married very young. And I was saying how if someone had showed us this on paper, we would, if you had all this knowledge, would you run the opposite way? Like,
Right.
This could never work. And yet, God in his goodness has taught us over the years how that's exactly what you need. And how, so we met in college. We were both on traveling music teams. And so, yeah. I don't know if you want to say something.
Yeah, I think what really resonated earlier today when you said you're naturally attracted to someone that's going to heal your broken spots or whatever, I think that absolutely comes into play here. I mean, we could not be, not opposite, but farther apart in our strengths. I mean, I think Laura's top 5, the highest one out of that was 26th on my list.
Wow.
And so, I mean, we're very, very far apart, but like she said, I feel like we're able to kind of fill in those gaps for each other and put together a good team.
Yeah. Well, hold on to that mic,
Awesome.
Chris, because I want to talk about you first. What I love.
You were going to say pick on,
I
weren't
didn't
you?
say that. I did a little, and then. So I'm really interested in kind of some combinations that I see going on here. So the connectedness piece and belief I want to zero in on for a second. So connectedness. People who have connectedness, my wife has it, have this ability to kind of see what amounts to sort of random dots of information on a map. And when a person's telling you a story, you see how those dots are connected, and you can kind of weave the thread that makes all of that make sense. And for one, it makes you a fantastic storyteller. But for another, there's just this sort of sense of confidence about the story and that the story is not done. Regardless of kind of wherever it pauses for the moment as that person is talking with you. But then the belief piece is this very strong sense of confidence that you and the way you operate your life and the moral and ethical basis upon which it's built is very sort of non-negotiable. And you're true to that, and you're a very stable individual, very much like a lighthouse in a way, very dependable, very reliable kind of individual. And there's a lot of passive kind of faith undercurrent that runs through all of that and has been true for you even from when you were young. But when you put those two things together, there's a 1 + 1 = kind of 36 equation that starts to come out of that. Because let's say this was the end of a church service and someone happened to walk up to you to say, man, Chris, could you pray for me? Because I just got this horrible medical diagnosis. And then they start telling you that story, right? Well, if they start telling you the story, you start doing the connectedness thing. You're like weaving the thing, and you're like, I see how this is going. And then I feel like God shows up in a way that can't happen for other people because of the way he's given you this strength. And a faith for that person's restoration and healing shows up that is the size of a dragon in the moment. And an indignation almost in your heart that says, oh, heck no, not on my watch, okay? Let me just tell you how this is going to work. First of all, can you see the hand of God moving through your life and how that's working? And then furthermore, the Word of God says that this and this and this is going to happen. Put your hand up. We're going to pray right now because that's not happening on my watch. And this no, this really strong no kind of shows up in your heart, and it provides unbelievable faith to stand in the gap for the individual who just showed up with that. Is there any of that kind of perspective that resonates for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, very value-based, that aligns very closely to biblical principles and being a Christ follower, making sure that we hold very, very, very true to that. And I think if I'm looking back again, like Laura said, we were married very young when we were young and stupid and didn't understand a lot of things like this. And we went through our share of problems, right? And in the moment, as we're trying to work through these things, it's hard to see it, but looking back on it, it's very clear to see God's providence each step of the way and how he has connected all of those things. And I think as we've experienced those things through our life, I think the opportunity is for us to say, hey, look, I know we don't see the end of this story or this illness or this, whatever problem it is, but based on the evidence that we've had through working through all of this in our lives, God's going to provide for this. God's going to provide those things right when you need it, and he will be glorified in the end, and we won't even understand it until we're probably through this ordeal and looking back on it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I can see that so much too in our parenting, because as our children have gotten older and gone through things, and I'll come to him in panic mode of this issue, he's like, let's take a minute and look at the big picture. Let's take a minute and look at how, overall, yes, this was not good, but overall, and so that's been good for me.
Well, what I want to illustrate for the pair of you is that what this does is make it so that the story of your combined lives will have moved you to places that will require big faith. And so this isn't just a passive condition in your marriage. This is something that God's using in the story of your lives. And so you will have found yourselves in places that has required extraordinary faith to be able to get through. And it's been that way because God knows that the guy to do it is right there. I mean, in collaboration with him, obviously, but yeah, I love that. I wish we had more time to understand more about your story. I'm fascinated. I want to kind of get in there, have you tell us some of those stories. Laura, what's a good day for you? If you could structure something and have all the things happen, you get to the end of the day and you're like, oh my God, it was so awesome. What does that day look like?
Well, it definitely involves people.
No.
And like when you talk about, the eyeball to eyeball conversation with good friends, and also, my tank gets filled when he pays attention to me too. So quality time with him, and it mostly would involve being with people.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking the question of what makes you feel so fantastic is because I'm looking for, if you're doing something that activates that endorphin rush and that's getting in your brain and it makes you feel so fantastic, then I want to go back and find out what the behavior is, because it's probably connected to you using one or more of your strengths that's releasing that and helping you feel so great. And so you saying it's got to do with people, I'm looking at all of your strengths going, yeah, woo, that's got to do with people. Harmony, you can't harmonize with a plant. That's a people orientation. Positivity, you can't also positivity to a wall. You got to do that with people. Consistency is about people. A developer, hey, that's all about people. So, yes, that you have to be around people is very, very clear to me. But being a developer, I think, brings you to a place where you are naturally interested in seeing improvement in folks. And so you love to see progress, especially in people in the way that they're growing. And that typically means, or it shows that with younger kids, like bring them up and really enjoyed those years. Was that true for you, the parenting piece? How was that?
Yes, very true. And even now, I love when we unexpectedly get a night where all our kids and their friends and everybody kind of gather, and definitely just even with the team of people I work with, wanting to see them believe in themselves more, and whether it be with their talents or gifts, that pumps me up when they see progress in their steps too.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us about Woo, because I was talking about it as if you weren't here in the room. So tell us about Woo from your perspective, what that feels like when you're at a party or that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting when you were talking, because I was like, I do want everyone to feel like they're welcome and they're a part of the experience. But I also, like, my favorite thing is to go deep, so it that was interesting to me, because I was like, I wonder how all that shakes out, which has been a good balance, because he doesn't really like to mess with people.
He's not the party guy.
No. And also, like, just even it's when you were talking about different seasons of your marriage, it's been cool. Like, even this most recent season has required him to be more people-y and to come alongside and feel like I have a role in that. It's like, oh, there's value in these strengths,
Yeah.
even though they're very different from each other.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I think sometimes when we're talking about a strength up here that's detached from the person, the strength of Woo could look really different isolated than the strength of Woo inside the person, with all the other facets of who you are and the other strengths that you have that play into that strength. So sometimes we can make a certain strength seem kind of clinical, and it's okay if you don't fully relate to that, because it probably has to do with all the other things around you, or even your spouse, and how you have adapted over the years, with each other. So that's good.
Yeah.
How about positivity? I feel like a lot of people have positivity.
I know, thank God for that.
Thank God for positivity.
I mean, right? The world is pretty as it is, so we have some folks around that have got an upbeat perspective. Thank God for that.
Yeah, tell us about your wife.
Grab.
I was just going to say a couple things. So it's funny, having known Laura, obviously, for a long time and studying her and learning about her, this whole thing about the people relational thing, it's not even... people approach her, it's like visual, or you can sense it, or you can smell it about her, or something, right? It's just like people will come up and immediately tell their entire life story.
Yeah.
And they would never do that for me, and I'm okay with that. But it's crazy. It's something that is truly, truly a gift, and that I value that she brings to the team. As far as positivity, this is one of the ones we talked about last night on the opposite side of the strength, and the view of it as being detached or airhead or that kind of stuff, and not in touch with reality. And that's something that, and we talked about it last night, is that she has grown up feeling not as smart as other people. And I've said, good gosh, you're so smart when it comes to relationships. Or even our kids will say, hey, Dad, we come to you for homework, but we come to Mom for all the friend relationship stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a strength, right? It's
Yeah.
just a different kind of strength.
Absolutely.
But that was one of the ones I think that as we look through it is, I can see how she's been told that and has kind of bought into that a little bit.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah. It's so, to me, what I love is it's so empowering, so endorsing to realize that if I feel this way, for one, I'm not an idiot, or two, I'm not crazy. Like, it's okay that I think and feel this way. And not only is it okay, it's more than okay. Like, there's something really strong and amazing about this, and I need to lean into it a little bit more. I know your kids probably love it.
So one of the things, because I do not have positivity in my top 5, but I seem to always hire people that do. So I just love having that as a part of our environment and just mindset. So I think a lot of people are drawn to you because of positivity, and I love how you are calling your wife out in her greatness, because it is so true. That's an area, obviously, that has been minimized by people in your life over time. And I just want to encourage you to spend some time with God about that strength specifically, and let him speak into you and why he put it there and how he sees it in your life, because it is a powerful strength to encourage, to be able to see the glass half full instead of the glass half empty. So it gives hope to people around you. And I would say the place to be careful in positivity is if somebody is sitting in a place of pain, that sometimes they need to feel that pain to heal and move on and not just have a positive spin to a hard thing. So I think that's probably, for me personally, people that have had positivity where I have felt dismissed at times is when they haven't matured that strength to a place of knowing when, and I'm not saying that's true of you, I'm just saying in general, that the maturity in that strength is to not twist everything into a positive when that person needs to sit in their pain long enough to learn from it and heal from it to move on.
Well, and I think that recently I've seen that just in our own trials. Like, my devastation has come when I can't find the positive spin. And then it's like, well, you know what? Some things just suck. And you, I mean,
Yeah,
there are really
true.
tragic, hard things, and that's what you have to walk through.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
Well, I do want to just say, we were kind of laughing because we were talking on the way home last night about how this goes along with love languages, and how it's when someone tells you you should love your spouse in their love language, and so for years you were trying to find that tension of how to love them in their love language. This is a more realistic spin to me, because it's like, it doesn't mean that you don't work at loving each other well, but when you realize the intent and how we're wired up,
Yeah.
we talked a lot about that last night, about how that was very encouraging and eye-opening, you know, because the longer you're married and the more information that gets thrown at you, just kind of having it all work together.
Yeah.
So we appreciate that.
So great.
Thanks so
Good.
much for
Thank
coming.
you. You did great.
Matt, are we going to take a break?
Sure.
Yeah.
Clint and Heidi, don't hide from us. Where are you? Come on up. And really, as Laura was just sharing too, the different tests and things, I have recently found out I'm an Enneagram 8, which helps understand even more just nuances of welcome. Of all of my strengths and how those play out as well. So I have heard a lot of people cringe when they hear I'm an 8. So people are afraid of 8s. Don't be afraid of 8s. We're so nice. We're so nice.
That's a different conversation.
I know, but I was just saying.
Don't bring your thing into my thing.
Oh, I'm slowly winning him over to open his mind up a little bit.
All right. You both have individualization. That's cool. What does that mean about us? Okay, so
That's
the
a
short
hard one for
version
people to
for
understand.
individualization is that you really just see the uniqueness of people that are around you. And kind of there's almost like a little fascination about it. Like there's some interesting thing about this person. And so it kind of draws you in. And then you want to talk to them a little bit. And then once you find your curiosity satisfied, then you're like, okay, and so I'm done. I'm ready to move on. Like I'm ready to go. I mean, I don't mean for it to sound shallow, but you've satisfied the curiosity about what you were interested in. And the byproduct of that for the candidate is that we feel seen. Because you're asking me really meaningful questions. You're not just saying, oh, I see you have a tattoo. Did it hurt? You're like, oh, but no, but it's got like a lion's mane. What does that mean something? Like, what's that about? Like the quality of the questions that you ask is driven by this strength right here. Because you're just fascinated by that individual and kind of who they are and what their story is. And so you know, if you guys have a small group and you have someone who's going to be like the greeter or the icebreaker, this is the couple to do that. Don't give it to me, because I'm going to blow it up. These people never come back. But these guys ask all the great questions, and everybody will feel like, oh, these people really love us. It's awesome.
We probably go too much in detail, too, right?
So can you tell me a little bit more about that? Do you use that? Do you do that? Do you interrogate your kids' friends?
You go first.
I guess I do. I never really thought about it until you said that, but I guess I do. Like, if I find out something about somebody, like Mike flies planes, I'll be asking all these questions about flying planes. Like, oh, wow. And then, like, after I learn about it, I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Ready to move on.
Yeah, but no, I mean, but I never realized that I actually did that.
Huh.
Sorry, I'm nervous.
There's no right or wrong answers, honey. We're just learning from you and the way you experience it.
Yes. No, I do think I do that, but it surprises me the idea of just like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I just want to keep asking more questions. Maybe too many questions sometimes. So
Well,
it's
okay,
interesting.
so when I look at your
Input,
strengths,
yeah.
what I see is you have input, which is someone who's got a high level of curiosity. But you also have developer, which is very sort of people-oriented, and you're wanting to see that person get better. So there's motive for your curiosity, because now you're trying to find how, if there's a way that you can help this person just take one more step. Just take one step forward as an encourager or a developer of people. Plus you have empathy, so your capacity to really intuit how they're feeling and the way that they think is almost at a Jedi level for you, which is really sort of annoying because the rest of us don't have it. So you know things the rest of us don't even know. Just when the kid walks in, you lean over to Clint and go, see, that one is dealing with this and this and this, and you're like, how do you know that? Well, you can see, just look at them. You can't see nothing. That's not available for the rest of us. Can you tell us about your empathy strength? Like, how does it come to you when you're interacting with others and you begin to sense their emotional condition?
I think just observing them or the way they interact, or I feel like I can feel their mood sometimes. I'm a counselor, so
No.
I get lots of practice with this.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
So I'm grateful that I have that.
Yeah, you're
that was
operating
good to
with a
see.
supernatural capacity that's given to you by God
Yeah.
that gives you intuition about how these people feel. What it also means is your kids are not going to be able to pull the wool over your eyes. Between the pair of you, they could try to run one by you, and you'll be like, that ain't happening today, pal. You better take that somewhere else.
I would say she is the one that gets the wool pull over her eyes, believe it or not. You know, she has that positivity where, like, you know, my son will drop
yeah.
a chair down the stairs, and I'll be like mad. I'm like, no, he did this. He shouldn't. Well, but he was trying to do this. So he was trying to help others. you know?
Yes,
Yeah,
give them the benefit of the doubt. I like it. I like it.
that's good.
So, Clint, if that's the case, then what do you do with your harmony? Because that's your number one. Then how do you lead with that? And how do you get everybody kind of operating in a harmonious way in the family?
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever you described her harmony earlier, I think I'm that to the T, where like I try to get everybody to be heard, be felt, and, you know, try to make sure everybody's filling their bucket, I guess, or what have you. But then things aren't getting done, then choof, and you're like completely opposite, right? And you're like, all right, no, this we're gonna do. We're going here, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I never really thought about it in a family perspective. I know I used to manage a team where I work, and so I know with that, I tried to make sure I could harmonize everybody. Everybody would be like, well, this person do this person do that, and I try to like get everybody to feel the strengths of each other and try to get the team working as one versus, you know, everybody man for themselves.
Yeah. I think people with harmony have a natural orientation toward leveraging strengths for the benefit of the group and the benefit of the team. So your intuition to place people in the right spot so that the team plays its best together makes it so that that's the case. And so do you do any coaching of any kind?
As far as like T-ball or?
Yeah, sure.
Anything.
Or like even business coaching or anything like that?
No, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess as a manager or leader, as you know, you're supposed to be a coach, right? And so all your direct reports were, you try to coach them through everything.
Yeah.
So I used to do that quite a bit, but now I kind of took a career different direction, and so I don't do that as much anymore.
Yeah.
I guess with my employees that I have now, I do with my own business a little bit, but not as much I used to, where I had, managers that manage other people, and so I was trying to coach them through different scenarios or
Sure.
problems or what have you.
So your relator, individualization, futuristic, all points to tomorrow. Like if I hand you a relational challenge, the way you solve that problem is you think about how tomorrow could be better, and then what's got to happen in order for us to get to that place. Whereas all of your work is dealing with the pain that came from yesterday and how it's showing up in today's world. So you guys are kind of facing in opposite directions in the way that you interact with the world, one facing backwards, the other one facing forwards. How do you resolve that in your relationship with each other? Does it play out too, where you solve your tiffs with how something's going to be better tomorrow, and you look back at, no, this is how it got here in the first place? Does that work?
I don't know,
I mean, I'm
therapist.
guessing it does,
What
'cause you're
about-
still
Why don't you
here.
answer this one? I don't know.
He definitely stresses me out sometimes with like
The tomorrow
what are we
thing?
doing? Yeah, I'm like, wait a second, I'm anxious about today. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
But I like that about him. Just thinking, I like to plan and thinking about what we could accomplish or his dreams and seeing him play it all out. I like to support him in that. So
Yeah.
I feel like it works pretty well for us.
Yeah, I think she helps me be a rock, or be my rock, because I'm always thinking about the future. It's hard for me to live in the moment and enjoy where I'm at right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm always like, okay, well, I got this to do tomorrow, and the next month we're doing this, and blah, 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 or whatever. And so I think she really helps ground that, and she gives me some of that positivity, and perspective of like, hey, we're good, we're here, we're doing this and that, so.
Yeah. How much time in your conversations with each other do you spend helping him understand his emotions?
Probably like 50-50. I feel like a lot of times he's doing counseling on
That
me.
for you?
Everybody else's problem out, but not my
Yeah.
own, so.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Everybody's always like, man, you're married to a therapist. She always analyzing you. I'm like, no, actually, I think I'm analyzing her more. And like, you're acting this way because of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think she just, from her line of work, she kind of empties her whole bucket, and then by the time she gets home, she doesn't want to try to analyze me too much. But I think, like she said, we do 50-50, because I'll tell her I'm feeling this way. She's like, well, do you think this? Do you think that? And she asks good questions. Makes you start to think outside the box.
Yeah. Heidi, that input strength makes it so that you have a curiosity that has a channel. It's got a line where all of your curiosity lies. I mean, you've got broad interests and that sort of thing too, but then there's this one space where I think you have even more, like an elevated level of curiosity. What is that? What's that line? What's that channel?
I was surprised by that one, but I do think I do that in some areas, probably counseling related, like parenting or marriage, relationships.
So what does that look like for you then? Are you buying books? Are you attending seminars?
Books. I'm very into podcasts, thanks to him now. So just anything I can learn that can help me in my own home life or working with my clients or
Yeah.
try to cook. Pinterest.
Sure. Clint, your responsibility is an easy thing to project. Earlier we were talking about projection. And what's so great about folks who have responsibility is, like, you're like Karl Malone. Do you guys remember Karl Malone, the basketball player from the Utah Jazz? Fantastic guy. Yeah, what was his nickname? The mailman. Yeah, why?
Delivered.
Because he would deliver. Yeah, if you get him the ball, he's going to deliver the basket just about no matter what. Well, you're like that guy. If we give you something, we can take that to the bank. Like, I know it's going to happen. I have that much confidence in you. But it's also something that's easy then, because you feel like that's normal for you, to project that onto your kids and be like, no, the responsible thing to do is, can we, And then they're not, because they're all like, blah, whatever, it just doesn't even matter. So talk to me about that challenge as you guys work on it at home.
Yeah, that is tough. I think I do project that a lot, whether it be onto her or be onto the kids.
Very
definitely.
understandable.
And it's interesting sitting here thinking about, like, okay, having that self-awareness to be like, hey, back off, just because you're going to do something a certain way doesn't mean they are, right? And so I know I experienced that when I first became a manager, back at my old job. It was like, I would project on onto people, like, well, why is this not done?
Yeah.
Give you a week. You should have done. I mean, all I could do is in a day, or whatever,
Yeah.
And so I could definitely see where, like, you got to watch that projection and be like, hey, you want to teach some responsibility, but at the same time, everything's not going to be done the way that that
Yeah.
I think is going to be done, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
I have responsibility as well, and I manage others. And so I've had to work a lot in like empowering others around me, because I know I'm going to do the job the way I think it should be done. So to be able to make my bandwidth greater, to make my influence greater, I have to really learn how to trust those that I'm giving things to, even if it's not done exactly how I would do it. So learning that empowerment piece has been important for me.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, and I do that now with some of my employees that I have with my own business. Is like, I even tell them, one of my main guys, like, hey, I'm sorry, I know I'm anal. Like, put this like this, okay?
Yeah.
And I try to just step away and like, okay, I'm sorry. You know, I realize I'm doing it, and I try to back off. And so, and she's good about trying to let me know if I'm doing it to her. So,
Yeah.
Good.
Heidi, one last thing I want to mention to you about your developer is, I think for you, your developer is aimed principally at people, and together with your individualization, you have this elevated ability to see really incremental, just small improving changes in people of any age. And that movement, that incremental improvement, is attractive for you, and it draws you in. And when you see that happening, it kind of makes you want to double down and go, oh, but it's working now. So if we just give them a little more time, like I bet we could get them here. And so you can just see the movement, and it's rewarding to you. So thank God you're in the role that you are, because it's rewarding, right? The piece I want to draw out, though, is to say the rest of us, your husband included, we don't have that. So if you don't say that so-and-so is actually making progress, then as an employer, my thought is, okay, look, this isn't working. Like, let's take that out back, shoot it in the head, go get something else. Like, this is not going to work. Can we replace this somehow? Because I don't know what to do here, right? This is not working. But you can see, no, wait. If you give me 2 more weeks, like, this is really, I can see the movement. The thing I'm inviting is to say, I need you to say what you see. Because the rest of us live in a world where we can't see that. It doesn't come naturally to us, and we don't think to ask. We don't think to ask because it's not obvious to us. And so you being able to bring that out is, you're going to feel to yourself like, I'm just sharing the obvious, like surely everybody sees that. I mean, it's so obvious, right? Well, it's kind of not. The rest of us don't see it. Does that surprise you?
Yes, it's obvious for me. But it's interesting. I was even thinking with our children, with him, how that might relate. Just that maybe I'm seeing them do some things, and he's just like, "You're not." He feels like I'm bad at being consistent, which I really believe in it, but it's hard to follow through
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, maybe they are doing some of the things that
Yeah.
I am seeing progress.
He
in
wants to
some
see
things.
the excellence at the end, and you're saying,
Yeah.
but there is some
Yeah,
movement
he's like,
happening.
no, you're just soft. You're
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
pushover.
I can see how that could play out.
So see,
See, I'm not crazy. That's cool. You guys got any questions you might have thought of last night or something we could help you with?
No, I don't have a question, but I have a comment to make. You know, with her being the developer and the positivity, we can definitely see that with like some of our family members, where she's really trying to be positive for them. And like you just mentioned earlier, I forget which one y'all did, but it's about the let them have their pain and all that. 'Cause she's like trying to, you know, give them the positivity or trying to help develop them so they can get over some of these similar situations that keep occurring.
Yeah.
You know. And I can see that frustrates her because, like, you know, that's her strength, that she's really trying to help that person, but the person just may not be receptive at all at that moment. But I thought that was a good point y'all had made. So, and I think for you, it'll help you, right? Because then there's certain family members just realize, okay, they need to be at that point or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's good.
Yes, it is. I can fix this for you. Yeah, it's good.
It's great. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You'll take it.